Hello, Claire here. Now, I'm really excited because today what I'm doing is bringing you the first of my 15-minute free Zoom calls that I have been doing with lots of people from the community. So you may have seen that I posted up that I am happy to do Zoom calls with people on any issue that they might be having about their design project or a floor plan review or about running their design business or productivity or SketchUp or really anything that you think that I can help you with in terms of creating a beautiful home or running a business or anything like that. And today what I'm doing, and I'm thinking I'm going to call this Chats with Claire. So I've just named it that. Let's see if that is something that sticks. We'll just see how we go with that. Anyway, in our first chat with Claire, we have Bronwyn. And in my chat with Bronwyn, what we talk about is her Instagram page. And we cover a whole bunch of stuff that I think will be really relevant to lots of you, because I get this question a lot about Instagram and how to grow your following, what should I post, what should I write in my captions, all of those sorts of things. So we cover all of that. We talk about finding your ideal client, making sure that your Instagram pages are speaking to the right person. So you are attracting the people who are actually going to be paying you, your clients. So we talk a lot about that. We talk about hashtags, we talk about the use of hashtags, and we talk about using your authentic voice when you are writing your captions, because people want to get to know you in your Instagram feed and they want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. So we talk all about that with Bronwyn in our first chat with Claire. So let's get on with our chat. Now, if you would like to submit a question for your own Zoom call with me, I will put the link for how to do that in this post. So you can just click on that link and submit a question. I'll then send you over another link so that you can sign up for a time in my calendar, and then we also can have a chat about whatever it is that is helpful for you. This is the first. I've just done 8 of these in the last couple of days, so we've got lots of this content coming your way in the next couple of weeks, and I'd love to have a chat with more people in the community as well. There is no catch with any of this. This is all just me giving back to the community. The only catch, if you like, is the fact that I'm recording these so that I can bring more value to you guys as part of this Facebook group. So without further ado, let's jump into my chat with Bronwyn. So I know you've sent me the questions and the things that you want to talk about, but do you want to recap what you sort of have sent me and give me a bit of a background so that the people who are going to be watching might benefit from that?
Yeah, sure. So I just sort of struggle on Instagram strategy to kind of work out within creating engaging content, how much do I sort of speak to my potential clients and kind of talk in language that is a bit more not design speak, to show that I'm real and authentic and like them. But at the same time, I also want to be growing my Instagram and credentialing myself as a valid designer. And therefore I sort of think, I need to kind of communicate that I know what I'm talking about and use language around that. And what I'm finding I end up doing is I'm sort of doing a bit of both. And some of my posts are just kind of a bit too complicated and not sort of single-minded in tips. So I'm struggling with how to use Instagram best to talk to both sort of audiences.
So I think when you sent it to me, and then so let's tell people what your handle is as well, just in case people want to have a look. So it's Hannah and Co Design. So I will, if I post this somewhere, I'll write it down so that people can see what it is. And so then they can have a look what we're talking about. But when I was looking at your question and then I was having a look at your feed and stuff, which looks beautiful, by the way, so I don't really there's nothing that I don't think that you're doing right. I guess the first thing that jumped into my mind is it just sounds like you're overthinking it a little bit in terms of trying to be, I don't know, maybe not being yourself. I think the thing that I found about my own Instagram over the years, and everyone, I think a lot of people struggle with, what do I post and what am I going to put on this thing, and I'm not growing fast enough, and why aren't I growing fast enough, and my posts or my profile looks the same as X's profile, and their thing grows and mine doesn't grow, all those sorts of things that we all think about. But I think the more that I was able to just share
genuinely stuff that I'm interested in, that I'm interested in talking about, that is actually really me, and that the captions sounded like me.
Yeah.
I guess the thing that I'd say in a tough love kind of way when I was reading your captions is, to me, and I don't know you at all, but to me it sounded a little bit like you were not being your true self, if that makes sense. Like, it feels a little bit to me like I'm not getting to, like, I only looked at maybe the first, a number of the captions, but it sort of felt a little bit like your tips and stuff are really good and really helpful, but I wasn't really getting to the heart of like who you are, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. And I don't know if that's true or anything. So that was the first thing I thought when you sent the question, and then when I was having a look. The next thing I was thinking about is that you really need to think of where your money's coming from when you're running a business, and what this is actually really for. And I get that you want to establish yourself like as a serious designer, which is great, but those designers are not going to pay your bills. So I think that you should be thinking more of this as like, how can I appeal to the people who, like, I think getting really, and I don't know if you are or you aren't, but are you really clear on who your target niche client is? Like, who are you actually trying to speak to on your platform? Have you given much thought to that?
Well, that's sort of where, starting the Instagram feed beginning of Jan, I've kind of been trying to figure out, and I am now trying to think about that more seriously, which I think is why I've struggled so much with like an authentic tone of voice, because I haven't really worked out who exactly I'm speaking to, whereas I should be speaking to potential clients who and then you're right, like what I'm currently sort of saying is not really me. It's kind of got my design professional hat on, and
that's what it feels like.
To be very articulate and design sort of talk, whereas the real me, if you ask me how I approach that room, I would be a lot more natural. And
I think you should write that. That's what I think you should do, because I think you'll appeal to more people, and people will get to know you more, and they'll like not that they wouldn't like you from this, but what you're trying to do is build your authority and your sort of know, like, and trust factor by having something like this. And so putting in, like, you had pictures of yourself and that sort of thing on there, which I think is great, but and I think people really do respond to getting to know you and seeing like the real you. But I think being, first of all, not overthinking your captions quite so much and just like really writing. But before that you start doing that, I think the most important thing is to really think, like, who do you serve, like in your business, who's the predominantly, okay, well, there's two questions. Who at the moment do you predominantly serve? And then my second question would be, is that who you really want to be serving, or do you want to be serving a different sort of client?
Yeah, okay. So my current client is someone who generally tended to be female. It's residential renovations and redoing a room. They either appreciate good design and they want their home to be really nice and welcoming and beautiful, but they either don't have an interest or don't have the time to spend on doing that themselves, and they don't have the skill set to. So I really like the current clients that I get and that I work with, and that's who I would like to continue sort of attracting. And today, everything has been through word of mouth. Like, one client has recommended another client. So I originally started Instagram just to kind of get my portfolio out there so that people could come and have a look. But another big thing I sort of pride myself on is I've got a million years before this in the communications background, and I sort of pride myself on being real and nice and kind and helpful and friendly. But then you're right, my Instagram feed is probably not really, like, it's not, I'm not coming across as me. And like you say, you don't particularly know me, but and
I don't think, like, the thing that does come across when I read the caption is that you are trying to be helpful. Like, you're doing everything that, like, textbook people say about Instagram or about any content generation, is that you want to, like, it is not about you. So this like the Instagram account should not be about you. It should be about your clients. So or about who you're trying to attract. And for me, I think you should stop. I think you should stop overthinking it anyway, because I think people will be naturally attracted to you as a person once you start being a bit more genuine to who you are. And I think that'll be design professionals, and it'll be people in the design. Your potential clients as well. So like, I don't think that you should worry about that, because you will naturally attract by being your authentic self as much as you can. And that comes down to, I think part of it, and a lot of designers worry about this side of it, is that like when they post stuff that they sort of are like doing tips, or they're doing like that, the design professionals will be like, oh, well, that's like, you know, very lowbrow of like, you know what I mean? And I think that's like a bit of something that people worry way too much about. And I just think you've got to move beyond that, because you're trying to build a brand, and your brand is like what you just said, you know, to be kind and to have these clients that you want to help them make these really beautiful homes. And like, so I think definitely when you're posting, for me, I'd be thinking, first of all, I wouldn't be overthinking the captions quite as much. They feel a little bit too like you've thought too much about them.
Yeah.
So I'd write the same content, but I just write the content and just start doing that more often. And I think you'll find your authentic voice. Like the more you write authentic captions that are just you, and just stop worrying about like what people are thinking about when they read the caption, if that makes sense. I think the more you do that, the more you'll find that you get a natural rhythm to how you want to speak on Instagram.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like what I would say about that. But I definitely would also do some work about thinking about the ideal client and who you're trying to speak to, because they're paying your bills. The clients are paying your bills. The design professionals, if they want to follow you, they'll follow you. If they don't like what you're saying, then they won't follow you. And who really cares? You know what I mean? And so making sure that when you do post, like a good sort of test of like before you start posting is like, and when you're doing like an ideal client thing, like I have a process in my business course, that Passion to Profit course that I have, like where we go through and actually like literally we want to know that person like inside out, like what is keeping that person up at night in relation to design, like what is worrying them. Is it their budget? Is it that their husband isn't agreeing with like what they're doing with the thing? Like they're worried that they're going to forget to put, you know, a laundry, the ironing board, a tall cupboard for their own, like what is worrying them about that. So get like really to the heart of like what's concerning them about their things, and then try and address those issues as part of the content that you're sharing. If that makes sense. And then every time you go to post on Instagram, think, and then even name that. Sometimes like even be as stupid as like naming that person, like Anna, like this is Anna, she is my ideal client and she looks like this. Would Anna care about this post? Like if I am writing to her, would she give a shit about what I'm saying in this post? And if she doesn't, then you either need to change the post or like do like a gut check on it. Or am I being like a bit staged again in terms of like what I'm writing, and you know, would that really help her? Would it bring her value? That sort of thing. So I don't know if that's helpful. So then the other thing I was thinking about, and all of this is just tips because I think your Instagram page is great. So I mean, and I think your captions are actually great. So I just sort of like, they're just ideas that I was thinking about as I had a look at them. The other thing I was thinking, and it's again related to the same issue, is related to hashtags, which you're doing a great job of. You're using heaps of them. I don't know if you're using all 30. Make sure you do use the full 30 captions that you're given. But the only thing some of them are totally fine, but just remember as well that the purpose of using the hashtags is to help you get found by new people so that they then come and follow you. So that's, you obviously understand that from your use of hashtags already, but the only thing I'd say is like, going back to the ideal client, is your ideal client on your first post that I see here, are they in the hashtag mustard yellow? Are they in the hashtag mustard and grey? Are they, so you know what I mean? So like, where are they hanging out? So I'm just saying, because that's like good real estate, if you like, just make sure that when you are using them that you're using, and I mean it's hard to get the hashtag, so I have a good hashtag planning app. I'll tell you about that in a second in case you're interested. So many of them are great, like Brisbane interior styling, perfect. Brisbane interiors, Brisbane interior stylist. I think all of those are totally fine, but I just think Um,
some of them too specific to.
yeah, do a bit more research on it. It's a good way to do it, to look at other people's Instagram accounts that you like, who you think have your same ideal client, and see what hashtags they're using. That's a good idea to have a look at.
Yep.
But this tool that I've been using lately and playing around with is called hashtag. It looks like this. It's well, can you see that? It's that one there. It's called hashtag. It's got pink with white.
Cool, but I can see the.
I think it's, let me see if I can find it in the App Store. And what it does is you enter a couple of keywords in terms of, like, you know, Brisbane interior stylist and interior designer, and, you know, whatever the 3 or 4 might be, and it'll generate your 30 hashtags for you, and it ranks the hashtag sets. And you want to try and get a good, so I'm not sure with the hashtags as well, just to give you a little, I'm not sure if you know about trying to get a good mix of the number of people who are viewing the hashtags. Do you know about all of that? Yeah. So to just
top tips, I follow, I went and checked out Vanessa Lau.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And on her tip. So that's been really, really helpful. But I am finding as well with the hashtags that creating those that are very specific is really, really time consuming.
It is.
But I've got a lot more traction from having more specific hashtags related to the image.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's also thinking, is that actually relevant to who my potential client might be searching?
Yeah, just as something to consider. Like, it's not always necessary to do that. Like, I think mixing in a thing that says mustard and grey every now and then is totally fine as a trial, because you never know. Unless you try stuff, you don't know where people are going to come from. But as a general rule, also be thinking, you know, where are my ideal client looking if they're going to search hashtags? Yeah, so I definitely would consider that. So just trying to think if I had any other thoughts on what else I was going to.
What did you think that hashtag app was called? Sorry, Claire.
Oh, yeah. So I was just in there, wasn't I? Hang on. App Store.
Oh, that's right. I can find it, can't I?
It's called hashtag expert. Hashtag expert. And it's got like a pink background with a white hashtag.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's one of thousands. I'm just trying that one at the moment. I'm not necessarily going to stick with it. Because I just want to try out a few at the moment, because hashtags are something that I find a problem as well. So yeah, but anyway, I'm just trying it, and it's making my life a little bit easier. The other thing that people often do is spend a couple of hours actually researching 3 or 4 hashtag sets. Like, say if you have particular kinds of posts that you do regularly, and then you just pop those hashtag sets into your notes app on your phone so that they're there, and then you can just quickly copy and paste those straight into your posts when you do them. And that way you know that you've got that good mix of, like, not too many, like you don't want too many over that 1 million mark. Because there's too many people, your posts will get lost. But you've got that good mix of, like, some in the 10,000 sort of follower or view area, and then, you know, just a good mix of all different ones like that. But if you spent a couple of hours and then created those in like a notes app or something, then that might be a different way of doing it if you don't want to generate them through the hashtags. But I'm just experimenting with that at the moment to see how it works for me. And I think it's been successful so far, because it does give you the mix. Like, otherwise you end up using the same 4 hashtags, which means you sort of only ever put in front of that same groups of people who are using those hashtags, rather than sometimes trying out like a random thing that they like, mustard and grey or whatever it might be, you know.
No, I've been setting up lots of different groups based on the shot in that later, and then sort of drop them in. But I'm still building on them, because then I come up with another photo, another post that needs something else different. But that might be a helpful shortcut. But I think that's really helpful. It's just, I think I get a bit convoluted in my messaging, and if I can just work on having a bit more of authentic voice, it's actually me.
I just think don't overthink it. I think just like one thing, there's a guy, Gary B, who I follow. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's very in your face, but he's awesome to follow if people are interested. and he's give him a try, because a lot of women in particular find him very off-putting when they first watch him.
Okay.
But he's really, really clever with marketing and branding and all of that sort of stuff. So I really enjoy his content. Anyway, one of the things that he says is document, don't create. So what I think you're trying to do too much of is the creating versus the documenting the process. So documenting what you like and documenting what you like about the room and what you, you know, what your design process is and your drawings and your, like, not spending and not making everything so, like, it doesn't have to be perfect to mean that people will engage with it. It just has to be true to, more true to you. So it's just like documenting the process. And I think that helped me a lot when he started to say that, because I also used to try and be too perfect, and, you know, I'd post my image and I'd be like, what am I going to write about this stupid image? Like, it used to be just such a pain in the neck. And recently I've changed my strategy for Instagram completely, which is working really well, because it's given me a different framework to actually, like, that's I guess the other thing that I'd say is that, like, if anyone wants to look at, like, I've been doing sort of like a colored theme with a mix of tips and just like all different sorts of things. People can just check out my Instagram, and you can check out my Instagram from what I've been doing the last probably few weeks. But having some kind of framework of what you are trying to do on Instagram does help as well, I find, just in terms of, like, otherwise you're like, oh God, what am I going to post today? And I also try and batch my Instagram as well. So I do it all on a weekend or pick a few hours on a day. And then you only have to do that creative process of trying to come up with your captions and your images and all of that stuff once. And then you just put it all, I use Later to schedule my Instagram for the week. And then I don't have to think about it really for the rest of the week, which really helps that whole thing of, like, oh my God, it's the morning and I've got to post something again. Yeah. So there'd be just a few other tips. So I don't know, does that help?
Yeah, no, it's really helpful. And it is sort of, it's also really helpful just knowing that you think, oh, everyone else has got so many followers, but it's like any business, it's taken people years to get those sort of followers. Right. And followers.
And don't forget,
well,
yes. So there's two things about that. Firstly, people can have very, very, very successful businesses off hardly any followers. So that does not mean they can have 100,000 followers and earn zip. Like, they might be earning nothing off that, which, like, what's the point of that? Nothing. And secondly, so many people buy their followers by either boosting posts or doing a whole range of other different things, and you have no idea whether that's what they're doing. And so, like, I always just say and think to myself and say to people, do not worry about comparing yourself to what they're doing, because you don't even know what they're doing in the background. They might be growing like wildfire because they're paying $100 a week for all the followers that they're getting. And, like, for what? Because at the end of the day, if you do pay for followers, you're not necessarily getting the people who are going to be, like, truly connected to you and what you're trying to offer and what you're trying to give. And so it's just not necessarily, like, a very good way of building up your brand. So sometimes that's not the case, you know, but sometimes it is the case. So I think just I wouldn't worry. In my newsletter this week, I wrote something about all about this topic, actually, all about just content and just putting yourself out there, and, like, how to create more content and not be afraid of doing stuff. And and I've forgotten what I was going to say about that. I was going to say something about the first point that I made in that. So document, don't create. And then, anyway, I lost my train of thought, but that's okay. If people are on my newsletter, they would have read what I wrote about that. Actually, I'm going to find it, because I know what I was going to say. What my first point was about that. Just give me 2 seconds. Because it'll just remind me what I was about to tell you. Yes, so the concept of, like, creating more than you consume, because I think a lot of people get worried about they spend too much time scrolling around in Instagram, which then, like, they're like spend too much time overthinking their own stuff, rather than just, like, this whole document, don't create, but also just, like, start doing more of the content creation rather than just scrolling through everybody else's feeds. And, you know, so, like, always document, don't create is a big message, and then create more than you consume is a really big message as well, in terms of like content, social media, and
Thank you.
and then not worrying about what people think of you, of course.
Yes.
Which is easier said than done, but and something that's like a less, something we're all probably always trying to get better at, but the less you can care about what people are thinking of you, and the more you can just try and be helpful to others. Because I think that's the other thing as well, is the more you think about, is this caption the right thing to say, and blah, 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 the more you're thinking about yourself. You're not actually thinking about your ideal client or the person you're talking to at all. You're thinking too much about yourself in that scenario. So try and think about the other person, and I think stuff will like flow.
Yeah. That's very good advice. Thank you. It's very helpful.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, I've got another call in a few minutes, so I'll have to jump off. But it was great talking to you. No worries.
See you in live.
It's really nice to like meet people face to face, because I often are like messaging with people in the DMs and stuff, and it's nice to like talk with them. Life.
No, I really appreciate all your all your help and all your insights and your weekly email, and it's all really, really good for me.
Oh, that's good.
Thank you.
That's great. No worries at all. All right, well, have a lovely weekend.
Okay. Bye.
See you later. Bye.